Welcome back to the Second Look Sports Podcast. I'm your host today, Justin Arenburg. Joined along with me is Cristian Ceniti and Alex Mandarino. Who's not with us is Brandon Brown, but he made sure to send in some important information for this episode, so we appreciate him for that. But boys, it's been an exciting week. NHL season officially done. We are recording on Friday, so the NBA playing games, last ones are happening tonight. Golden State will either be in the playoffs or the Suns will be in the playoffs on the West. And on the East, I'm hoping for Charlotte, man. I am really pulling for the Charlotte Hornets to take down, I think, who are they playing again? I forget. I honestly don't care right now because I'm more so on the Hornets bandwagon and just want to see them make the playoffs, to be completely honest with you.
Hornets and Magic. We have a
Magic, yeah.
friend
Screw
out
the
there.
Magic. I don't care. I really don't care. Anyway, boys, exciting week. We finally made it to the best time of the year in terms of the NHL. So give me your overall thoughts on the week and just the excitement you guys have going into the weekend.
And guys, like I really need these first round playoffs. Like this is great timing, obviously. From a Toronto perspective, no Leafs involved for the first time in a decade. And, you know, for a long time there, I'd say like in the January, February, March stretch, I was looking ahead to the schedule. I'm like, God, not going to be able to watch the team I usually follow the most in April into early May, but I've got my guilty pleasure of Formula One, and then they went and canceled two races early here. So there's a 5-week stretch of no Formula One. So I've been relying on the Jays now, and they haven't been holding up their end of the bargain. But thank God, I am very much looking forward to, as a neutral observer, tuning in to some round one of the NHL playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs. There is nothing better. I am hyped.
Yeah. Not much else to add other than the fact that in some ways, maybe you could take solace in the fact that the heartbreak for the Leafs has been slow and painful, but it's over in some respects. It's not over for the end of the season, but it's over from an on-ice perspective. So you can sort of watch the NHL as a neutral observer. And really, if you're a fan of any Toronto sports, it's only sort of positive moving forward in the sense that, listen, the Leafs can't hurt you anymore on ice. The Raptors are in the playoffs. If you're more of an NBA fan, they play their opening game against Cleveland Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, sort of a perfect way to encapsulate the start to the weekend. And then you have a full slate of playoffs leading into Monday night. Sort of weird how they scheduled these games, at least that Monday nighter. I guess you got to spread it out, but that's besides the point. Very exciting, all that said. But yeah, if you're a Toronto sports fan in general, you really hope that you have some solace in the fact that a lot of these teams can't hurt you anymore, and you at least have general sports to look forward to. So, Justin, I wonder if you have anything to add to your thoughts on the weekend.
I mean, listen, this is going to be an exciting time. I know that, like you mentioned, Toronto sports fans have gone through a lot. And even if you go back to last year, right, like the last calendar month or 12 months, we had the World Series loss that happened here in Toronto. Like I know Leafs fans, you guys are still upset about Game 7, where you took the eventual Stanley Cup champions to Game 7 and then absolutely crumbled in your own barn. There's stuff like that. So it's definitely going to be, I guess, even though you're sad, probably, I'm speaking for you guys, even though like I don't know. I'm guessing even though you're sad that your team's not like competing, you're probably happy in the sense of, oh, I don't have to go through heartbreak this spring. Let's just enjoy these playoffs because I enjoy the sport of hockey. And I feel like that's going to be a lot of people around at least the greater Toronto area. But in terms of the overall like weekend, I am so pumped up. Like Cristian said, the first round of the playoffs, I don't think there's anything better, honestly. It's Stanley Cup playoffs, best playoffs in the world, in my opinion. NBA, honestly, we had this debate last year, I think, Mando, me, you, and Brandon, about just the NBA being a worse product, and I still believe that. Although there are some second round matchups that I am extremely, extremely excited for, and there's even a couple first round matchups this year where I look on the NBA side and I'm actually excited by the bracket. So I'm excited for both to get going, and I'll be paying a lot more attention to the NBA because of the excitement that is going to happen over the next couple of months with more entertaining series. And just to name like an idea is like we are going to get Jokic and Wemby potentially in the second round. Like that could be an NBA Finals, and I would be thrilled with that. But we're going to get it in the second round, and then we're probably going to get the winner of that versus Oklahoma City Thunder. So, like, it's just going to be back-to-back rounds in the Western Conference where you're just so excited. And I'm so excited to see what Cade Cunningham can do with the Detroit Pistons. I want to see what Jason Tatum looks like in the playoffs back with the Celtics. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on with both the NHL and NBA. Talk about the NHL, Battle of Pennsylvania. That's going to be absolutely electric. Sidney Crosby going on potentially one last Stanley Cup playoffs run. There's so much excitement. You know what? I don't know how you guys feel about this. The one series that like I was super hyped for because I think it's going to be a phenomenal series, but the fact that we've known about it forever just has kind of drained the energy away from it for me is Dallas versus Minnesota. I'm just not pumped up for that one as much. I think it's just because we've known for a while now that is going to be the two teams that will face off against each other in the semifinal or in the Central 2-3 spot. So what's your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah,
Do you guys have that same feeling?
No, I mean, I could see your point. I didn't really think about it till you brought it up that way. Like, it's funny because I think if we knew that would, like you said, if we knew that was that's the way the chips were going to kind of fall yesterday, for example, like a lot of the remainder of the West, I think there'd be more excitement. But I don't know. I'm still pretty psyched. I think once the first game starts within the first 10, 15 minutes, I think everyone's excitement on that series is going to start ramping up again. I think it might be, if not first, second, or third closest matchup. I think it would be hard pressed to suggest that it won't go 7 games. I also think the two green teams going against each other is a narrative that we don't hear very often. Not a lot of green in sports, boys. That's all I got to say. But there's going to be a lot of fun stuff from that series. And we're going to see something. We're going to see a team that could make the finals go home early. And that could be, we can get into a whole conversation if we wanted to at some point about the playoff structure. And, obviously, I think Pierre LeBrun actually put a tweet out today. And I think, I don't recall the context, but a lot of people that he asked, a lot of people that were surveyed, 70% or so said that they'd prefer a different 1-8 playoff format. And some suggested they'd like a play-in, similar to the NBA. But all of that said, the point of the question was, is that series going to be entertaining? I think maybe now we're not looking at it as the number one because there's been so many recent decisions made in the playoffs that we're looking forward to. But I think that one might be the most entertaining, if not at least top 2.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I really don't think that it's flying under the radar for me as much as it was like kind of set in stone. I don't know. They are both two heavyweights in the entire playoffs, if you ask me. And I think the Quinn Hughes wrinkle, it's such a thing to add on to this, right? Like, I think for the first time in a while, we're seeing star power for the Minnesota Wild, right? And I'm very curious to see how that matches up against Dallas.
I would agree, but I look at Vegas and Utah. I'm like, I'm more excited for this matchup than Dallas, Minnesota now.
Oh, really?
Like,
is it just?
No, you know what? Honestly, I was hoping for a Utah Anaheim matchup. Anaheim would have had
that would have been sick. But even like Edmonton, I'm just happy we didn't get Edmonton and Los Angeles. That's the only thing I'm happy about. Like Edmonton, Anaheim's going to be electric. It's going to be high scoring affairs every single game, right? Like Buffalo, Boston. I'm super excited for. I think
great jersey
Montreal,
matchup. Elite jersey matchup.
Okay, you guys can call me biased for this, but I think Montreal Tampa Bay is going to be the best series.
Well, I think that's second. I think that's going to be second behind the Minnesota Dallas. I do think that's going to be a high octane game. Like there's so many players that can speed up. Like you have sneaky fast players on both sides, and you have quite possibly one of the Hart Trophy finalists, and like you could even look at a Selke Trophy finalist in Suzuki. Like there's star power on both sides that we sort of knew. Similar to what you said, Christian. Like we haven't seen the Wild with star power. We've sort of seen Tampa Bay with star power, and the Canadians now pretty much have entrenched at least 2, if not 3, stars, you could say, depending on how you how you describe all the players. But that's, I mean, plus it's going to be in like prime time. You're going to see a lot of the 7:30 games there. So it's going to be a lot easier to watch those matchups. It's going to be pretty entertaining.
All right.
I got a take for that series that,
Yeah.
when we want to get into it, I'll reveal it there, but excited for that.
Okay. Well, before we get into the actual playoffs, I think it's warranted because I don't know if you guys noticed, but Evan Bouchard kind of finished the season with 95 points.
Yeah.
That's more than Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes has ever had in one season. And so it sparked a lot of debate recently about who should be the Norris winner. There are a lot of good candidates. Like when I think about the top 10 defensemen in the league, I don't think last year, like you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, it's this strong. Like, no, there's like 10 guys that like could possibly win it. And it goes like Evan Bouchard, Zach Rowinski, Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes, obviously, Rasmus Dahlin, Mort Seider, Charlie McAvoy, Lane Hudson. You throw all those guys in the mix. Miro Heiskanen, who I forgot, my bad. You throw all these guys in the mix, and it's like, it's hard to pick a winner. It really is. But who would you pick right now as your Norris winning defenseman? Cristian, I'll go to you first.
Dude, we are spoiled with these award debates this year, though. Like, we did a Hart Trophy debate last episode, and there is no wrong end. Like, this one's worse. Like you said, this goes freaking 10 deep. Like, a guy who probably won't even finish, I don't know, he probably gets into the top 10, let's say, but the guy who led defenseman in goals is Jacob Chikrin with 26. Like, where does he end up on this ballot? He's an afterthought. So that does speak about just the league depth in general. I don't know. I've gone so back and forth on this one, and like you said, the Bouchard push came from him specifically on the ice, but I think when it started picking up more steam too was Mike Kelly put out an awesome segment on Amazon, and then he tweeted out some of the boards they put together. I want to say this is about a month ago, and it was really just highlighting the idea that Evan Bouchard's reputation doesn't really match the on-ice results this year, right? We think of the horrendous giveaways, and they exist. They are true. They are real. But in comparison to the other guys, namely Makar, Hughes, Werenski, he's basically turning the puck over and it leading to high danger chances at a very similar rate to the rest of the crew. Yet he's got a 14-point lead on number 2 in defensive scoring. He's at 95. Werenski's got 81 on the year. So I've had a very hard time kind of dismissing that argument and making a comparison to the Hart debate. McDavid is the default. You can always have him in there any given year, even in his down years. That's the same for Makar, right? So he's there too. I really do think the Bouchard, the numbers, plus you have the in-depth argument being made now. I think it's too tough for me to ignore. I don't think he's going to win it, but if I was voting, I'm going with Bouchard.
Yep. I think that's a great breakdown. I think if I had to play devil's advocate, what I would say is my secondary ballot, because I would say Bouchard deserves it. And maybe the deserves is the way that a lot of people look at the Hart Trophy, and this guy deserves it because he hasn't won in the past, and the voter fatigue sort of plays a factor. I'm trying not to let that factor into my mind because obviously Bouchard hasn't won before, and when you look at your Hughes and your Makars, those are guys that basically other defensemen that are looking to win the award basically have to steal it away from them. And Werenski can kind of be put in that group of 3, I would say as well. You have to sort of outperform those guys every year, whereas the Hart Trophy, there can be guys like we were talking about Celebrini in the mix until the Sharks didn't make the playoffs. I sort of look at the Norris as well as there's not a lot of awards that I feel this way, but I do think you have to make the playoffs in order to win that award. And I only say that, like, if there's a defenseman that very clearly far and away owns this debate and this the points and the on ice play differently this year, and they happen to be elsewhere, ago,
right?
Exactly. Then that's a different conversation. But I do think in this particular case, Bouchard. Look at the point differential. You mentioned the Mike Kelly breakdown there, and a lot of the defensive breakdowns that we saw earlier in the year, the blunders were earlier in the year. And that's just to say that, listen, I know those take over, but I think a lot of people brushed off Bouchard before even looking at the results and more recent play. The only advocate I would say for another player would be Quinn Hughes, because he played on two different teams this year. Right. And he's third on wild scoring, and he played like half the games of every other player on the team, essentially. So it's kind of crazy that even with a different system, a different coach, different players, he was still a guy that was able to put up numbers as if a seamless transition was inevitable. So that's not the only factor, but I do think playing it on two different teams and continuing that production should sort of factor in. But that being said, I don't know if that's enough to kind of sway my first thought being Evan Bouchard. So I am on the Evan Bouchard train, I think, with you, Cristian. So Justin, I wonder if you feel the same. You want to go Lane Hudson, don't you?
No. I don't want to go Lane Hudson. I think
too,
Zach
though.
Werenski.
He's in there too.
I think Zach Werenski is the Norris. But the same thing about Celebrini. He doesn't make the playoffs, so
yeah,
it's hard. Like
You know what? The other thing too, though, there, like if you want to just go deeper, then didn't make the playoffs. You look at Macklin and San Jose; they didn't end the year horribly. They weren't in there in the playoff mix till the last game, but the last 3-4 games, we had Rick Bowness. Like everyone's talking about the blow up that he had right this week. He had a blow up originally. I want to say 5 or 6 games ago as well, where he was he kind of saw this coming, and he tried to get the train back on the rails, and they didn't. And I think Zach Werenski, I think he had 4 points in the last thing ends. I'll go verify this, but him specifically and the team, they went down
for sure.
They went off the cliff, and Macklin, they kind of stayed steady.
And you have a great argument with Bouchard, and I'm not taking anything away from Bouchard. I think Bouchard's had an underrated season, and I think that, you know what, we wrongly criticize him for mistakes that he makes because they get, I guess, blasted more, or they get more shown airtime,
They're
if you
uglier.
will. Yeah, for sure. They're uglier. Yeah. They're more, noticeable because he's such an offensive defenseman that he's gonna make, those more when he makes mistakes, they're gonna be more blatant. I don't know. I lean Cale Makar or Rasmus Dahlin. I think Dahlin has been incredible this season for the Buffalo Sabres. I think that when you look at his underlying numbers, I think that his numbers support the fact like how well he's played in the minutes that he's on the ice and how much he carries the play for the Buffalo Sabres. I think that when you think about Cale Makar, obviously, it's like you said, you put him in that McDavid conversation of like he's just automatically there every year, but you know what? Maybe he shouldn't win it because he's that good anyway, so he doesn't really need it. But I think those are the 3 finalists. Like I really do. I think those are the 3 finalists, but I would probably lean more so Dahlin than Bouchard right now. And I get that the points for Dahlin aren't there, but also I think just like the step that Dahlin took this year on and off the ice, dealing with what he dealt with, and then playing the way that he did still, I think that matters, even though I think fans would probably say that that's just rubbish and that's not valid at all. I think that, like, considering the trauma that he was going through for like a little bit of time there, like a month, the way he was able to play, it speaks volumes about who he is and how he's able to be the leader of that team and be the captain of that team and lead them into the playoffs.
That's a good point.
But obviously, you guys like Bouchard, and I don't disagree with that. I think Bouchard's obviously a great, great player, and he's done incredible things. Like I said, second most points in the active era of defensemen behind Erik Karlsson now. It's incredible to think about. But I think that Dahlin has been the overall better defenseman throughout all facets of the game, and even you could argue Cale Makar. In terms of that, though, we will turn our attention directly to the Edmonton Oilers, and we'll start in the Western Conference. We're just going to go through and we're just going to pick which team we think is going to win and give one quick reason why they are going to win the series and as many games you think that they're going to win. So, Alex, I'll start with you and the Edmonton Oilers versus the Anaheim Ducks.
Let's go. I'm actually pulling up my bracket challenge that I created as we speak here. And I think I have the details in front of me. Let's start with Edmonton. Look, I want to be the first one to say that I want them to lose in 4. And I am always on this train, and I don't really know why. I think it's if you separate Connor McDavid from the conversation, then I don't like Edmonton. I would love to see the McDavid win. I would love to see him do things that, like, we've seen him do everything but win. And I feel very gutted for him as a Canadian, as just as a fan of greatness. But I'm just sick of seeing him in this conversation, and there's constantly question marks around them. Like, how do you not solve these conversations? You're hoping Connor Ingram is the answer, and he looks like he could be. And that's actually why I'm going to pick Edmonton, is I think they have seemingly stable goaltending for the first time in a while. And that's no disrespect to Skinner. But I don't want them to be successful because I want McDavid to make a change and win elsewhere. I just don't think the Oilers deserve it. I'm sick of them getting 4 number 1 picks in 7 years and still not being able to sort of curve the conversation of their goaltending issues. If they do win, it'd be great for Canada. It'd be great for Edmonton. And I know the fans there would obviously have a great time. I just think Edmonton wins because they have probably some steady goaltending that I think they can at least rely on. I know that I don't think it's been decided as to whether Leon's going to be involved early or not. But Anaheim is new. Like, they have Joe Quenneville. That's not, it's not something to be laughed at by any stretch, but they haven't been in the playoffs for a number of years. Some of their core is young and therefore haven't played in the playoffs. And I just think that they're going to be bested by a team that they've been there before. I think the first round is sort of a wash for them. I'm taking Edmonton in 6 games.
Gentlemen, I have to agree. It's the Oilers in
Boom.
6 for me, and just taking you guys through my thought process of how I went about this for every series. I kind of, before looking at anything, just try and do the comparison in my mind and give what my answer would be. And I was kind of, convincing myself, man, I really like the Ducks this year. It might be Ducks in 7. Then you take a look at the actual rosters. You try and do some lineup combos, and I realize Edmonton's roster looks better than it did in my mind, and unfortunately, Anaheim's looks worse. Definitely love the Quenneville factor for Anaheim. I think that could maybe get them looking a lot tighter defensively than we saw throughout the year. But, let's make no mistakes here. This team played up and down hockey. They played fire wagon hockey. Very entertaining. And when it looks good, it looks really good. But the same can be said in the opposite direction. I do think they have the goaltender advantage with Dostal. I think he has steal a game potential, and I think he could do that in this series. But yeah, the Oilers, they've maybe found something, maybe half a thing in Connor Ingram, and that might be all they need when you have Draisaitl and McDavid. I will say, I feel like this series, I've just got a stamp on it saying suspension is happening in this series. Maybe specifically from the Anaheim side. And this might be the path to a series victory. But this is a roster that has Radko Gudas and Jacob Trouba. Even Ryan Paling's a guy who's sneaky dirty. Jeffrey Viel will throw the gloves down. This one's going to get rough. And Oilers and Ducks have a history of it getting rough. So, yeah, Oilers in 6, but an entertaining one for sure.
All right.
So Oilers in 6. I actually picked the Oilers in 6 too, but for different reasons. I think that the Oilers represent a team that was like the 2017 Ducks, and the 2026 Ducks represent the 2017 Oilers, who are just on their come up. So I think this is a perfect example of two teams, changing or going between each other, and now you're starting to see the 2017 Ducks, or the Oilers look like this 2017 Ducks, and obviously, like I said, the 2026 Ducks look like the 2017 Oilers. And if you remember, the Oilers lost that series in 7 games. I think that the Oilers are a little bit better than the Ducks when they, in terms of the younger version of themselves. So I think that in terms of the defense, like you talked about, their roster, it's exciting. It's young. It's got a lot of talent. Cutter Gauthier, 40-plus goals this year. Leo Carlson, a spectacular young talent. Obviously, Beckett Seneca as well, Jackson Lacombe on the back end. I like the additions of John Carlson on the back end as well, and Lucas Dustall can steal you a game. However, I just think that they don't play as tightly as good defense as what you would hope, and I think it's going to get them burned in these playoffs. And I think Edmonton's team defense has honestly improved over the last month, and I think the numbers back that up as well. The fact that they've played really good defense, and it just wasn't until recently that they were getting goal support to support the fact that they were playing good team defense, but were losing games. So yeah, that's where I kind of stand with that series. We'll move on to the next one, and that would be Vegas and Utah. What do you guys have? Cristian, I'll go to you first.
Another one. I was really hoping for that Ducks. Ducks and Mammoth matchup because they just feel like very similar. But I'll give Utah more credit. Like you look at what they did in the back half of this year, I feel like it went very under the radar, right? Like they did a very good job, obviously, at the deadline, acquiring Uyghur to solidify the blue line. Vejmelka, I don't know if he ended up leading the league in wins as a goaltender, but this guy played number one status in terms of just games played in general. He has that role. And for Vegas, it's been the exact opposite, right? Like Aiden Hill, Carter Hart, whoever they've thrown in really hasn't been good. You throw in the Tortorella wrinkle now, man. I do think that they can catch at least lightning in a bottle for one series here with the Torts effect and get to that next round. Maybe a date with Edmonton, some more Eichel McDavid. But it's going to be close. I got Vegas in 7 here. I think the star power does win out for Vegas, but I think the one player I'm very excited to watch from the Mammoth side is Dylan Genther. I want to see if that lethal shot can translate to the playoffs when the space isn't as open. But that young core looks good too. It's a similar conversation to the Oilers Ducks series. I think it's a little closer though. Vegas in 7.
Interesting. I had Vegas originally to start, and I think the only reason I'm making that decision is Vegas has been consistent since their inception, and they went to the finals in their first year, and that feels like a safe pick. I changed my mind at the last second, and I think Utah might steal this one. There's always going to be a pick that's sexy and you kind of want to stray from the norm. But I just think a lot of people are going to look at this Vegas team and think, okay, well, maybe there's some blemishes here and there, their goaltending being the biggest takeaway. That being the case. And Mitch Marner, I think to some in some respects, like only a point per game, which is still very, very impressive. And I think that's kind of a lot to be desired, him especially playing in the center role for a couple of games this year. But yeah, I just think Utah, and just to kind of answer the question you asked yourself earlier, Karl Vejmelka with 38 wins, Vasilevsky with 39, so just under that top spot for wins this year. But it's a really good point, exactly, and he's kind of solidified that group, and I think you can kind of build around him. But I don't know if there's something special going on in Utah. They feel like a weird team of destiny, but only for one round. Like I don't see them sort of making a push, but they really sort of took a step.
When they took
exactly. Exactly. In 6 games, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in that one. And that's what I have here for Utah in 6 games. Gunther had a sneaky 40-goal season this year. Like him and Wyatt Johnston, those are those two guys where I think 40, and then Wyatt Johnston with 45 goals this year. I feel like there was a lot of star power this year. A lot of the Hart conversation was driven by the McKinnons, the McDavids, the Celebrinis, your Kuches. But there's a lot of other guys that will obviously not get Hart Trophy nominees, but they had incredible years this year as well. And I think Dylan Gunther is one of those guys. I think Clayton Keller, who's been a consistent pillar for that group for a long time, is up there as well. And I forgot all about the Uyghur move. That just makes me feel more confident in the pick because I think that's a guy he's been a veteran for a while. He's been on both the Panthers and Flames in different aspects. He's taken on a big defensive chunk for both responsibilities for both teams. And I just don't know if I trust Vegas this year. I feel like there's a lot of question marks around them this year. Jack Eichel scored his first power play goal, I think, 2 games ago, which in some instances you could say maybe he's starting to heat up And so that's why things are trending for Vegas. I would not be surprised by any stretch if Vegas blows through Utah in their first go of it. But I just think Utah has something special. I just think there's a factor there that Ryan Smith has built a great culture there. I feel like there's a lot of guys that are hungry to kind of see success. And I think you're coming to a Vegas team who probably feel like they're ready to go because this is what they're used to, but they might just be surprised at sort of the firepower and the star power that you mentioned, Cristian, that Utah has, and they might be blown away. So I think Utah in 6 here.
Utah in 6.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Let's
you
go.
guys are way off the rails, I feel like.
We were opposite directions here, though, so someone's got to be on your
guys. Direct
you guys, both
your
of
shock
you,
at Mando.
I think Mando's off on the team. You're off on the games. I think 7 games giving you that's just way too much. I think Vegas does this in 5 or 6, man.
Okay.
You gotta choose one, 5 or 6.
Okay,
well,
fine.
6 or 7.
I'll say 6. I'll say 6.
All right.
I think that Vegas is going to be way too strong. The star power, like we talked about, is going to be too much to handle. The experience is going to be too much to handle for Utah. And the fact that they're playing underneath Tortorella and they're 7-0-1 since he's taken over the team.
Yeah.
They seem to have a coach bump. They seem to be responding well to whatever he's saying in the locker room. And it seems like they pulled their heads out of their asses, to be completely honest with you, because before that, the team just wasn't playing up to their expectations. They had, like, you look at that roster and it's like, how in the world is this team not performing like they should be? They are performing like they should be now. And I think that a guy that is going to step up in the playoffs even more than what he already does in the regular season is Jack Eichel. I think that Jack Eichel's 200-foot game, he's one of the best centers in the league. I think he's underrated when it comes to the 200-foot game. He's really a complete center. One of the best, obviously, point producers in the NHL as well. Like you said, Mando, though, the scary thing is he's only had 1 power play goal all season long. So that's just a scary thing to think about. But I think that power play still works really good. You got Dorofeev, you got Marner on it, you got Stone, you got Eichel, you got Theodore. Like, there are a lot of guys that the Vegas Golden Knights have that are quite dangerous. And I think that the only thing holding them back, or only question that you guys probably are like, oh, why do I think that Vegas might not win? It's probably because of the goaltending. And, like, you're right. Obviously, Aiden Hill has not been great all season whenever he's been in the net. Carter Hart has not been great. But I think Carter Hart's probably going to be the guy that's going to start for them. He's been the guy kind of down the stretch here for them. So we'll see. I do think that Vegas is going to get by Utah in 6 games at the most. But yeah,
just what the most damning thing is about Utah, looking at the lineup here. It's like top 6, their first line, like Keller, Schmaltz, Krause. Okay, Krause, complimentary guy. Like, you got to have a guy who gets it on the forecheck. Cool. Genther, Cooley, Kyler Yamamoto in the top 6. Kyler Yamamoto is in your top 6. That is, and it's because they're trying to go scoring sheltered line with Peterka, Kerfoot, Carcone on the third line, but Yamamoto's in the top 6. I think
a fair point.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So you guys, I can't wait to see that you guys get your picks proven wrong here. But anyway, we're going to move on to the third series, Dallas versus Minnesota. We talked about this briefly beforehand, the excitement level for this one. I still think it's going to be exciting. Don't get me wrong. I think that obviously you said there's a big point here that Mando, I think it was Mando who said it, the star power. The star power is there with the Minnesota Wild this year. They have Quinn Hughes. They traded for him at the deadline, or not the deadline, December. They have Kirill Kaprizov. They have Matt Boldy, who took a step, in my opinion, even more this year. They have Jesper Wallstedt. They have Philip Gustafsson. They have really good defense as well. Brock Faber on the back end. Joel Eriksson. The one thing that concerns me about this Minnesota Wild team is the lack of center depth, or star center depth. I will say that the Dallas Stars obviously have an advantage in. The only thing concerning for the Dallas Stars is being healthy. Are they healthy enough to go deep into these playoffs? So I'll throw it to you guys now and let me know what you guys think. Cristian, will go to you because I see that you're just looking to see if Rupe Hintz is going to be available for game 1. That's what I'm guessing you're looking up right now.
Well, I was going back and forth between these rosters here, but to answer your question, if the Dallas Stars will be healthy enough, I'm going to say no. I don't know if Rupe Hintz is available for game 1. I don't know if Miro Heiskanen is, but even if they are, they're probably still carrying some bruises into the series. It really is less about that, though, and I think it is more about the Minnesota Wild. Like, the star power is what I am most excited for. Kaprizov and Quinn Hughes, who, I don't know if you guys saw this Hughes stat this week, that it's just like the puck possession time for any, like, all players this season per game. He averages more than 40 seconds than anyone else with the puck per game. Like, it is unreal. He's the only guy above 2 minutes. I don't think he's at like 2:40. I am going to be a full believer in the Quinn Hughes factor, but I'm also a full believer in the Minnesota depth. I look up and down their lineup. There isn't really a guy who makes me, react as I did to Kyler Yamamoto. Like, you've got the Foligno bros on your fourth line. I can get behind that, especially when you got a 6'6" centerman, Michael McCarron, between them. That was their deadline addition. Trenin's a banger in the bottom 6. Tarasenko and Yurov, this Russian connection. I like the depth. Basically, the only guy who I have any question mark with is like Jeff Petrie as your 6. Okay. But guess what? The other 5, Hughes, Faber, Brodin, Spurgeon, Middleton, those guys are all slotted where they need to be or above where they need to be. It is a formidable roster that Guerin has put together here. It was a risky move getting Hughes, kind of, getting a lot out of the cupboards, but I do think it's going to pay off. I haven't said much about Dallas because they are just really good too. I just have the feeling with Minnesota. That's basically what it comes down to. This is going 7, though. Guaranteed. Minnesota in 7.
Let's go. I have nothing else to add in terms of the games and the team that wins. I think Minnesota finally just they I don't know, they overcome the giants that they've faced, whether that be not making the playoffs or losing in the first round. So I think
what is that streak right now?
Oh, Minnesota? You're saying like they're not making
they have gotten out of the first round. I think they've had some series against St. Louis.
I don't know, dude.
I don't think they have, Christian. I honestly don't think that they've made it past the first round in like forever, my guy.
I don't have the specifics, but I'm pretty confident, and we can obviously double check this.
I'll look it up. You guys talk. I'll look.
Look up Minnesota Wild playoff history. That's all you got to look
It's been a while because I know that they've made the conference finals once, I think very earlier in their career, but I know that they've been pretty perennially, like they've been more successful than their counterparts in the Blue Jackets because they came into the league at the same time. You're so pumped about something.
They are literally the Leafs of the West that don't get talked about.
They don't.
In terms of not making it to the playoff or first round.
They don't. And, I think they've just been sort of an afterthought for a lot of the NHL because it just, they come up against very formidable squads and now they are a pretty formidable squad. They just happen to go against a very, very powerful one on the other end. There's not much else to add. And Christian, jump in if you do have the note whenever you are able to find it.
Yeah. Because in my head, I'm like, no, they've done the second round thing a couple times. Like you said, like the Leafs. Yeah. It was 2013-14 and 2014-15. They went back to the second round in those years under Mike Yeo. You guys know how much I love
classic Mike Yeo.
Since then, they have not get out of the first round. So this is bordering on, I guess this is 10 or 11 years now. Yeah.
It's tough, and I think just like everybody's got faith in Bill Guerin, and there's not a lot of reasons to not believe in that. You take a big swing in Quinn Hughes, and he's only proven to be successful. And I'm looking, and I was trying to think like, why was I so confident in Minnesota? There's got to be some type of X factor, and I think it's Jesper Wallstedt, man. Like you look at the last 10 games he's had here. I don't have to go through all the stats, but he's only allowed more than 2 goals once in his last 10 starts. His save percentage, I didn't do a calculation, but just looking at some of these numbers, 946, 926, 971, 923, 100 for a shutout, like he's absolutely dominated. So you talked about Gustafsson.
29 in the last 10.
It's nuts, man. It's crazy. Like that is above that would be number 1 in the league if that were the consideration.
65 in his last.
Yeah. He has had a tough stretch. I was trying to look at that as well. He's had below 800 in his past 2 starts and below 900 in his last 3. So tough stretch for him. But to know that you have both guys, one that clearly is holding on to the reins right now, and Gustafsson, who has been a little up and down in his career, but when he's hot, he has been a very, very top end goaltender. So you have Wallstedt to kind of pick up the pieces. it's just, I looked at some of the top end talent, and there are some of these top, like Dallas, I feel like just if healthy, some of those top end guys get a lot more respect, I think, than some of the guys on Minnesota. Like Kaprizov aside, right? Kaprizov is a superstar in his own right. I think Matt Boldy, this was his coming out party. I think some people are starting to realize that Matt Boldy is a bona fide superstar. But then you look at Eric Sinek. I don't think he's a guy that gets enough respect. Quinn Hughes, yes, definitely so much so. But I think there's certain guys on that team that just don't get enough respect on the Minnesota side because they've been this middle of the pack for a while, whereas your Jason Robertsons, your Wyatt Johnstons, and the like on Rupe Hintz. I believe, I was just looking it up, I don't know if he'll be available for games 1 and 2, and then I think Gulletson suggested that he might be back later in the series. Yeah, so that might be important for the first 2 games that I know are in Dallas. But that being said, if Minnesota can kind of get out there, at least with a split, that's a big win for them as well. I think Dallas, the same thing. It's going to come down. Like, I don't think you can go wrong either way. I think both have incredible star power. Their goaltending is solid. I think on the back end, you look at both sides, and I think you can consider both of them. And if they're both healthy, you can almost consider it a wash. Maybe Wild have a little bit more of the edge there because they have those solid defensive guys. I don't know, man. I have Minnesota in 7.
So, yeah.
Right? I think Minnesota has kind of the longevity. I have Minnesota in 7, man. I think either way, though, I don't think.
I don't know what you want, Justin.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Well, I have
Listen, I'm looking at that Dallas defense here, though. So, the Dallas defense, right side. Like, this is reminding me of when the Leafs played the Bruins. Was it? I can't remember if it was the first time or the second time. I think it was the first time. We were totally exploited on the right side. That was what Bruce Cassidy. He was just like, Ron Hainsey, Matt Honwick, Roman Polak here, like, and you look at the right side for Dallas. This has always been the pain, but Nils Lundqvist, Ilya Lyubushkin, Tyler Myers.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, that seems exploitable. Anyways,
yeah, it's a good point.
That's
Justin. What? Exploitable. You can exploit that side.
You think that isn't good enough? Tyler Myers
has not been good. The Tyler Myers reviews out of Dallas since this trade have not been good. No.
And I think Ilya Lyubushkin should be nowhere near more than 5 or 6. He's a great 5-6, but if he's a 4,
has been healthy scratch plenty of times in the past couple of years. Yeah.
Who? Sorry, who was that?
Exactly.
He's played 52 games this year. Yeah.
That's fair. Okay, but guess what? What does Dallas have that I guess Minnesota doesn't have?
What does Dallas have?
Name rhyme with Schmiko Schmantinen.
Yeah, that's exactly what it rhymes with. Do you guys remember what he did in the playoffs last year against a loaded Colorado team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you worried about him coming off injury though?
No. He's been back. No? He's been playing. He's been looking good. I think that you guys talk about a player that broke out this year, Matt Boldy. There's another player on the Canadian side that broke out this year. That would be Wyatt Johnston. He had a really, really good season that's not talked about enough. Probably could have been considered for the Olympic team even more so than what he was. And he's had an unreal season. And then they have Jason Robertson as well. Like, I look at this team and I'm like, this team is really, really good. I like, obviously, Rupe Hintz matters a lot. And whether or not he's going to be able to compete, it really is a big factor. But I like Matt Duchene down the middle of the ice. I think that is a good, solid piece for the playoffs. He's been there before. He has a lot of experience. I think that this team is just ready to go. Jamie Benn, I like in the playoffs as well. I look at the forward group and I think that the Dallas Stars forward group and overall as a team, they play a lot better. And I think that the biggest factor is going to be Jake Ottinger. Like, if Jake Ottinger rises to the occasion, Dallas is going to win this series. Maybe even less than 7 games, but I'm going to say 7 games.
Okay.
I think that, like, they have, don't get me wrong, Quinn Hughes, amazing, top 10 player in the world. Kirill Kaprizov, top 10 player in the world. But, and the thing is, I think this is crazy coming out of my mouth. I would rank Kirill Kaprizov and Quinn Hughes higher in terms of a player ranking than Mikko Rantanen, but Rantanen has an X factor and clutch factor that I don't think Kirill Kaprizov or Quinn Hughes has demonstrated.
I think Kaprizov, in the limited times we've seen him in the playoffs, we have seen it. But Rantanen has a cup, right? Rantanen has deep playoff runs, and given the team
And he
Kaprizov has
puts up
played for,
and he puts up over a point per game when he plays in these runs as well.
Definitely. This is one where it is as much, I don't want to say as much feel. Like, I really do think, to your point, this one feels like it's going 7. And when series go to game 7, I've had plenty of times where I've thought a certain team was going to win game 7 and it doesn't go their way. I think people maybe thought that with Colorado last year, right? I mean, given that in the third period, it looked like they were winning that game.
Yeah,
until Mikko Rantanen did Mikko Rantanen things. So I think there is a potential for Kaprizov things, Quinn Hughes things, Wallstead things in game 7.
For sure. Yeah. I think that the overall roster of the Dallas Stars is a little bit stronger than the Minnesota Wild. But I do respect
Best
the argument
name
on
in
defense.
the series in Justin Ritskovian.
Sorry, what? What'd you
continue?
Say?
Just continue.
Oh, okay. I did not hear what you said. So my apologies. Anyway, so you guys are Wild in 7 and I am Stars in 7. So far, I like my bracket a lot better than you guys. Okay, let's go to the final matchup in the Western Conference. I feel like this is probably the easiest, and we can spend literally 2 seconds on it. And it is more so about congratulations on Anze Kopitar on a successful career. Amazing career. One of the best to ever do it. Patrice Bergeron type players. Yeah, your career is just over. Sorry. It's going to be over in 9 days, maybe. I'll give you. And I'll give you a game. I'll give you a game.
Waste of 8 days. Never forget.
Yeah, I know.
But
I'll give him. I'll give him an extra day. I'll give him an extra day.
Yeah.
But anyway,
can we just go all at the same time? Can we just raise our hand? Who has LA winning a game?
I have them. I have them in 5.
Okay,
I have them in 5.
I have a sweep. I have a clean sweep for Detroit.
Okay.
I mean,
I gave him a game. I gave Kopi a game.
It's Kopi. It's literally if Kopitar was injured, and it's not like he's like Superman, but it's just I think they'll win one for him. You got to win one at home for him. They're gonna get it's 2-0. They might win game 3, and then it's curtains from there.
Yeah, exactly.
They
got to win one game at home. I just hope they win one game at home.
Yeah. I went through this
for Kopi
before we got recording, but today I learned of two players. Like this always happens, right? Like sometimes you just learn a new player. I learned 2 today on the LA Kings. Taylor Ward is an outfielder for the Baltimore Orioles, but he's also an NHLer. I learned today. I also learned about Jared Wright, who sounds like he could be like a pitcher on the St. Louis Cardinals or something. Maybe I'm thinking of like Adam Wainwright or whatever. But
no,
it's not a great sign. At least we're dialed in, but I wonder how many hardcore NHL fans, media, whatever you could poll, and even they wouldn't know Taylor Ward and Jared Wright. 2 on the same roster.
Yeah,
no,
I'm sorry. I don't have a sympathy win for Kopi boys. I'm sorry, Kopi.
That's fair.
Sorry,
well, when the Leafs were on their LA, just a quick side rant. When the Leafs were on their West Coast trip in LA, working that game for TSN, I always put the lineups in the lineup, and I'm putting in last names. And you look at the last names that one of their beat writers put, like Trevor Dooley or whatever. Yeah, and it was like, okay, Hellenius, I kind of know, and then you go Ward. Well, like Aaron Ward, like Joel Ward, did either of them make an appearance? And Wright, I'm like, who the hell are these guys? You got to go to Daily Faceoff and confirm. And that's no disrespect. Clearly, they're important to that team. But that being said, maybe they sneak in a game. You know what? Taylor Ward, anytime goal in the series, plus 25,000.
Lock it in.
They lock it in. Good luck to them, but just for a game.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can move on to the East then. Buffalo versus Boston. Give me your picks.
Who's going first here? I'll step in.
Step in.
Oh boy. You know what? I don't really have like a reasoning for this other than I think Buffalo has just been more consistent this season. And I know they've gotten a lot of limelight and a lot of shine because they've ended this massive drought. And now that that's over and their admin had their fun kind of calling out people on Twitter a few days ago, you do have to get down to business. And this is where the season is great, but ultimately you have to sort of come with your lunch pail like a lot of the working class in Buffalo are, and you have to win some games. I think Boston's a great story this year, and I think they probably overachieved in a lot of different aspects. And I think Jeremy Swayman is, if not Vezina, he's going to be top 3, if not top 5 goaltender in the league this year. And he's a big reason for creating some optimism around that group. But when Kuznetsov, I think, is in your top 6, if not your number 1 center, I think it's like, okay, this is a great story. I just don't know if that can ride you past a really, really hot team. And not even only a hot team in Buffalo, a team that seemed to have just found its stride. And they took a risk not signing Alex Tuch this year. They said, you know what? He's going to be our sort of deadline rental, for lack of a better term, but we're going to keep him in-house. You mentioned Rasmus Dahlin and how much he sort of deserves the Vezina. So Vezina, did you imagine they give him the Vezina? He's been that good on defense. The Norris. Jesus, boys. And so I think there's just so many positives to this team. And Tage Thompson he gets a lot of credit, but my God, the guy can score at will. And I think he still, for some reason, is an underrated player when looking at the top players in this league. His size is massive. He knows how to use it, and he can score from essentially at will and at every angle. So I think they've found their stride this year, and I think they've been bulldozing teams. It's been consistent for a very long time, since basically the midway through December. And although you have to get new to the playoffs, I think when you look at KeyBank Center, the first 2 games in Buffalo are going to be complete riots. And I think the city deserves that. I know a lot of the times crowds they can't win you a game, but I think if there's anything as close as possible, I think it's the fans, the Sabres fans and the beer saber and all of that in KeyBank Center at Buffalo. So I think that earns them at least 1 game. And I just think Buffalo, they deserve the division and they deserve being able to play Boston. If you play Montreal, if you play Tampa, that's a different conversation. But I think you can will one past Boston. I don't remember how many games I have them. Let me just check. I have them in 6. I think Boston and Jeremy Swayman is able to steal one, but I just think Buffalo's built different. And I think it wills them through at least the first round.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. It does feel like a lot of, and I recognize this in my kind of thinking as well, where it feels like, Buffalo deserves it. Like, they've gone through a lot. They deserve it. But like you, Mando, I think they earn it. They got to go out and earn it, but I really do think they have that potential in them. I am so excited to see what a playoff Tage Thompson and playoff Rasmus Dahlin look like, right? Like, Justin, you mentioned that 2017 Ducks and Oilers series. I think for a lot of people, or really the league, that was kind of the introduction to playoff Draisaitl, which is a whole other being. And, that can happen with other teams as well. So I'm curious about those 2 specifically, kind of the cornerstones in Buffalo. But yeah, you definitely can't discredit the fact that Buffalo was able to win this division, right? It was not a given, right? There was a day I remember where they were all tied, Tampa, Montreal, and Buffalo, either at 102 or 104. This was a 3-headed race, and Buffalo came out on top, kind of with games to spare, right? I think they deserve credit for that too. They didn't crumble under the pressure of, having to secure that. It was kind of smooth sailing for them. They've been the best team, I believe, since January 1st in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
However, Boston somehow has been the 3rd best team. It's kind of crazy. They've had the 3rd best record in the NHL since Jan 1. That does float under the radar. I have seen also, it is very, it doesn't feel like it. I've seen also some stuff about, like, if you do, like, our favorite, Deservo-meter, I've also seen, like, the Deservo standings, just based off of goal luck, goaltending, whatever, all this type of stuff. Boston does not fare well in it. Like, they are, I want to say, bottom 5 in this type of stuff. Basically, that they've had a lot of luck on their side to get this result. I do give them credit for a season that I don't even think they expected to have. And I'm going to give them a little bit of a playoff bump because we know what a playoff pasta McAvoy look like. Swayman as well. Sabres in 7. They sweat it out. Bruins look a little better than maybe we think coming in, but the Sabres, they come out on top.
Sabres in 7.
You got it, bud.
Sabres in 7. But I get the Jeremy Swayman factor, and I get the fact that like Boston has more experience, but you can't tell me you look at this Buffalo roster and you're like, this team isn't already just built for playoff hockey, even though they don't have the experience.
You know what, though? It's weird because like earlier in this year, they felt like they didn't have it. Like the first 15, 20 games, there was a very similar roster. And for whatever reason, it took them a while to get going. So I guess I can see that being the biggest factor. Maybe like you get introduced to playoff hockey the first, but I just don't know how long it takes them to get adjusted. I feel like it might only be 10, 15 minutes. And then I think like Lindy's been here before, so I
Yeah,
feel like
exactly.
even he makes those guys like
With this
wake the
team.
hell up.
Last
this team.
guy to bring this team to the playoffs was Lindy
He
Ruff.
won a Jack Adams like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we dealing with here? So yeah, no, I say 6. I can see it being 7 just simply because it's their first run in a while too. So
I say 6 for Buffalo as well. And simply because I think Jeremy Swayman's playing so good that he can steal a game or two for Boston. And you look at outside of David Pastrnak, who does Boston really have that gives a threat to Buffalo every single time they're on the ice in terms of their offense. You have Charlie McAvoy on defense, but in terms of their offense, they don't have anyone. Morgan Geekie had a great start to the season. He cooled down so hard in the last 50 games of this season. So yeah, other than that, I think it's time to move on to, I'm going to save the one series for the end. So let's go to the Battle of Pennsylvania. The Philadelphia Flyers and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Sidney Crosby back in the playoffs against a Flyers team that no one expected to be in the playoffs. Christian, are you first off excited for this? And are you shocked by ESPN wanting to push this series the most, it seems like?
Guys, these are hockey markets through and through, right? Like outside of Original Six, if you're doing the second edition of Original Six, right? These are the types of teams that you're putting in. Pittsburgh, we always credit them for it's Buffalo and Pittsburgh, the out of markets that always watch the Cup Finals, even though their teams aren't involved. I think Penguins fans and Flyers fans are going to make this a riot of a series, not to mention just the on ice rivalry that is involved here. I did have to convince myself to be excited for this series because you just think of the rosters and I'm just kind of left going meh. But you know what? The more I think about it, I think the rivalry will get the best out of these guys, right? And who can hate on a Crosby, Malkin, Swan Song late career? But as great of a season as this is, I don't know how many, let's say, polls would go out next year that has the Penguins back in the playoffs. I think even with them here, it feels like a bit of an aberration, and it's no guarantee they're back here next year. They got to make the most of any run they get. But the Flyers, talk about a team who's kind of been on the rise to end this year, right? I feel like the Islanders felt like they had the spot locked up in the wild card. They were even in the Metro, Columbus, and then all of a sudden the Flyers are right back in it, and they're kind of dictating how the race goes. So credit to them. I do think we're seeing a trend of a lot of teams getting their young, really bright prospect join them late in the season, usually because they're coming from college. And we've seen that with Porter Martone. I think he's got 4 goals in 6 games, maybe 1 or 2 more. But he's been a seamless fit. Looks like a Philadelphia Flyer through and through. And I think that's given them energy. I am going to side with the nostalgia and just the emotional want to see Crosby move on to round 2. I've got another one. Actually, yeah, I've got the Penguins in 6 in this one. That's what I've got.
Okay. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's interesting to say that originally you thought okay, I wasn't that really interested in the series. And I can see why. I do think there's no real, other than your Crosby, I feel, and your Crosby Malkin and the nostalgia you suggested, and the fact that Crosby might go down as a Mount Rushmore player if he's not already there, this might push him there. Yeah, it doesn't feel like there's that much excitement. I do think it is the rivalry. If either of these teams played a separate team, I don't think it's an entertaining series by any stretch. Maybe if Pittsburgh plays Carolina, you can drum up the fact that it'll be a little fast paced. It'll be interesting in some respects, but on the Philly side, I think this is the matchup that would allow people to watch and be excited. This is the battle for me of like coaches getting the most out of their players, because Dan Muse is a guy that has shot up the rankings for the Jack Adams this year, received essentially no love for the hire and throughout the season, and quietly, until it couldn't be quiet anymore, pushed his team to the promised land in that second spot in the Atlantic pretty convincingly throughout the end of the season, where that it's the third in their Metro in their division, was sort of the only spot that was available, and Pittsburgh sort of had the second spot locked up there. I think when you look at like the Brazos and the Brian Russ, I think even had like a career year, and somehow Connor Dewar had a dominant season. Yeah, Shea, like Mantha with 30 goals. So I think that's important to note, that they're riding this first year coach bump of, this guy seems to believe in us. He's getting us to play great hockey. And I think when the Pittsburgh Penguins look at their opponent, like Crosby, I don't have the numbers, it's been pretty well documented, he absolutely dominates the Flyers. Like Philly looks at this as, this is exciting. We'll get a rivalry game. We might be able to take them down, but my God, Sidney Crosby, he's there again. It's Sidney Crosby one more time. So I don't see Philly have any opportunity here. Like Rick Tocchet's gotten the most out of Owen Tippett, and Christian Dvorak is having a great year. I think he had him in Arizona a few years ago, and he had a great year as well when Dvorak was in Arizona. I just don't see it. Like Vladar's been a great story for them this year, but Vladar's not a number one goaltender. I don't know if he holds that. Yeah, like he's just sort of there. Yeah, Urson, I've never had faith in him. I don't know why. He's just kind of like a guy. It's felt like Philly hasn't really had a number one since, unfortunately, Carter Hart. And even then, it necessarily wasn't the best fit as a number one goaltender there. So I just don't know if I trust, like, it's a great young story. I think it's a great experience for the Flyers. I think for the Zegerases and for the Martones and the young guys on that team. Forster is a guy I don't think gets enough love. I think that's a really good player. I just don't know if they have it in them. And I think Pittsburgh makes pretty easy work, to be honest. I think Crosby and the group just in 5 games say, like, we're done, like, we're taking this, we're using this successfully. I think it's
5 games as well. I think it's 5 games. I think they're just going to route them. I think that Philadelphia doesn't really have a lot of scoring outside of Martone and Zegras connecting. It's just not there for me. It's just not there. Vladar has played great. I think that, we shouldn't discount Vladar. But I just think that the Pittsburgh Penguins are just going to be too much. I don't know if you guys know this, but they are third in goals for this season at 290.
Pretty wild.
That's a good stat, because like that proves to me that they have secondary scoring. It's not just coming from like a couple guys, right? Like look at Philly, they're 240. They have 240 on the year. That's 19th in the league. That's 50 less goals. That's coming across all 4 lines. Like there is secondary scoring across the Pittsburgh Penguins in all their top 6. Look at Brian Rust. You look at Evgeny Malkin. You look at Anthony Mantha. You look at even Tommy Novak, for example. You look at Ben Kindle. Like all these guys can put the puck in the back of the net. I know Tommy Novak, your favorite player of all time. Anyway, but yeah, it's going to be Pittsburgh in 5. Moving on to the third series of the Eastern Conference, we have the Ottawa Senators against the Carolina Hurricanes. Guys, I'm just going to save you the trouble right now and tell you my pick. It is going to be an upset. It is going to be the Ottawa Senators in 7. It is going to be absolutely electric. And this Ottawa Senators team is arguably the best team in the Eastern Conference. I'm going to tell you that right now.
That's a wild take. The best team in the Eastern Conference.
No. I did not say the best. I did not say the best.
You literally did say the best.
No, I said they could be the best team.
I said they could be
the best team.
But you said best, so that's what I'm holding on to.
Better than Carolina, I'll tell you that right now.
That's wild. Listen, I think selfishly, I'd enjoy that. From the selfish perspective of Rod, was it last year when they were eliminated once again in the conference finals?
I think it was two years,
2 years ago, where there was a little bit of I don't know if he's going to stay there. He wants his assistants to be paid.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it might have been last year. I thought you were going to. We didn't lose. We didn't get swept.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Sorry. Go ahead.
But like I would just love Rod to be on the market. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
I don't know if I'm being swayed by the fact that when does an upset become not an upset? Because I feel like this has just become such a popular take now, the Sens to beat the Canes, that I think maybe just because of that, my mind has now swayed to like, what are we overlooking here with Carolina? The key to Carolina's choking has been the conference finals. They always make feels like easy work of the first round. Is this going to be a harder matchup than usual? Sure. This isn't like an Islanders team that just gets in there, a Penguins team, whatever. The Sens, they just have so much more arrows pointing up. I do wonder just about the goaltending, though. We know the Ullmark roller coaster, and that's not to say that Carolina's got some rock steady goaltending either, but it almost feels like the Sens are a bit of an imitation of the Hurricanes. And can they actually be the ones to perfect the system? Maybe, but I think I'm going to go with the original here. I have the Canes in 6. I don't feel super confident in it, but I don't know. I can't see them being knocked off. I think, like I said, I would like it, but no, give me the Canes in 6. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like the comparison of basically the Sens sort of being like Carolina light, right? And so maybe you see that two teams that are very similar going head to head, and the goaltending I think is going to be the number one factor, as it is for probably a lot of series. I just think Carolina sort of coasted through a lot of this season. And so because A, they're Carolina, and B, they didn't really have a lot of trouble all year and sort of locked up that number one Metro spot. They didn't really get a lot of conversation. Rod Brind'Amour is probably, it's going through the motions at this point. But that being said, they were still having success at the end of the year. It's not like they sort of took their foot off the gas pedal. Now, it's going to be the conversation of, are they ready for the playoffs, or have the Sens basically been playing the playoffs for the past 10, 15, 20 games already, and they're already in that mindset? I think what the Sens have going for them, and why in some ways, Justin, I see your point, is your Bathersons and your Stutzlas and even the Sandersons, who had to battle back from injury, and Chabot, like, still a ridiculous story of him coming back after 2 weeks, basically with a broken forearm. Like, these guys have been playing playoff hockey already for a number of weeks. So I think it'll be a seamless transition when they open up. I think Saturday at 3 p.m. is the first playoff game, them in Carolina. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if they take game 1, because maybe they're just already in that mindset. But I think Carolina and Rod, they quickly realize, like, this for us is light. We should be able to easily make work of this Sens team in 6 games. And that's why I also have Carolina in 6. But I would, like, it's just one of those, like, this might be to me my least favorite series. I don't really know why. Like, for some reason, it just doesn't drum up the excitement. I think just because Ottawa, as much as they've battled and they found their way in, I still look at them as Toronto's little brother, despite them being in the playoffs and Toronto not being there. And Carolina, just as much as they play a very high-end style of hockey, I'm sort of sick of seeing them, similar to Edmonton, continue to make it and not really do much with it. So I'm just not that excited about this series. So either way, I can see a team sort of upsetting if Ottawa makes it. I just think Carolina does. That being said, they do make light work of this team, and Carolina in 6. But Justin, you feel this, you think otherwise, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that Ottawa to me is playing as a complete unit right now, and I think that is massive going into the playoffs. All 60, it's not like, like you talked about Sanderson and Chabot going down. It's not like they seem like they miss those guys, and it's not to say they don't need them. They obviously need them. They're some of the best defensemen in the league, but it seemed like it doesn't matter who's in that lineup right now. They're going to play a certain way, and they're so bought into Travis Green's message. And I think that they're getting good goaltending down the stretch here from Linus Ullmark, a lot better than, say, the game against Florida where he left in 5 in the first period, even though the team came out like flat-footed and stuff. I just think that overall, the way the Ottawa Senators are rolling right now, I really like it. I think that their unit as like they're playing the most complete unit hockey, I feel like, in the NHL right now. And you just look at their forward group top to bottom. I like the strength. I like the grit that they added with Warren Fogle at the trade deadline. I think that's an underrated move that Steve Stamkos did for just a second round pick. I think that overall the Ottawa Senators are going to shock some people. And heck, maybe they lose in 7 games. But if they lose in 7 games, this is still a win for the Ottawa Senators, in my opinion, going into the offseason. And then you can update the goaltending, because, listen, it's just, if Ullmark plays unreal this series, great. Then you keep him. But if he plays like crap, then he's got to go. He simply has to go. But yeah, that's my take on that.
Okay.
There's one series left. It is the Montreal Canadiens versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'll go to you guys first and see what your guys' opinions are because I want to hear your guys' thoughts. And
Yeah.
Alex, I'll go to you first.
Okay. I think this will be the Minnesota Dallas of the East. I think that's pretty clear. If we looked at this series at the beginning of the year, and this is why you play the season, but if you looked at this series at the beginning of the year, I would probably say that the Lightning had a lot more of an advantage. And I don't know if that's just because of previous circumstances. The Canadians did sort of push back a little on Washington last year, and they just weren't able to get over the hump. But this was the year that Montreal had to sort of make a push. It felt like the Canadiens fans were at a point where they're making strides, but if you're back sort of in the 8 slot and they didn't really look like they belonged, I feel like there would be trouble for, I don't know if Kent Hughes, but there'd be a lot more like skepticism around the team. But the way that they've played, especially in the latter half of the season, but really all year, they're going to be a scary team. And I said this a couple weeks ago. Like, I think in 3 years, it's no question that the Canadians are the best Canadian franchise going. And I don't even think it's a question. And they have high energy. They have guys that are close to, if not superstars. Nick Suzuki hitting the 100-point mark. It's actually wild that the Canadians have been an organization for so long. And like the 50 goal mark hasn't been hit since like 89, 90, and the 100-point mark was only
90,
hit a few times.
Yeah, 90, 91, I think is the last time they hit 50 goals.
Richer, yeah. Like, I just feel like there's so much history, and this team now is sort of breaking records, which is sort of surprising to see. Slavkovsky with 30 goals this year, and like their goaltending. How do you have like essentially like 2, if not 3, like you have 2 studs basically? Like Dobish and Fowler are absolute studs, and it's incredible to see. I have nothing negative to say about this team. They've proven that they can be there and compete in the playoffs. But that being said, the Lightning are kind of nasty. Cooch is very possibly going to be, if not the number 1, the number 2 in Hart Trophy voting this year. Jake Gensel has been a problem for a long time. You still have Andrei Vasilevsky, and John Cooper, despite never winning a Coach of the Year, has been to the dance before. This team just continuously proves that despite the naysayers saying there's eventually going to be a drop-off, they have seemingly a complete team, and they have buy-in from guys that are willing to play. And I think that's going to be the scariest part, is I just think this is going to be an absolute battle. They have tough guys. Brandon Hagel, and Braden Point, didn't even mention them. Like, those are guys, like Brandon Hagel can fight with anybody. He's going to stir the pot. You have guys on that team that are not going to take no for an answer. And despite pushback, the Lightning can give it as much as they can take it. So I do have the Lightning in 7, but my God, it might be one of the best series that we've seen in a while.
I agree with a lot going on there. Basically what I've been going through here in my head and just looking back and forth is I've kind of like separated these teams in my mind to certain categories. And you've got kind of one quartet versus the other quartet at forward, right? Like you've got Hagel, Point, Kucherov, Gensel versus Suzuki, Caulfield, Slav, Demidov, right? Like those feel like the big 4. I definitely think Montreal can give those guys a run for their money, but right, like you think about how clutch Kucherov is, Gensel, right? Maybe the health with Point, even Sorelli at 2C, like maybe those are potential things there that can bring the performance down. But let's even just say like that's a saw off. Let's just say that. I'd probably give slight edge to Tampa, right? Then you have like the horses on the back end. I think Lane Hudson is going to be that guy. Is Noah Dobson going to also be that secondary guy after his injury concern going into the playoff now too? Because it feels like Tampa has had Darren Radish do his thing. We don't know about Victor Hedman, and that's another X factor too. If you had a Victor Hedman and you're taking off like a Lilleberg or a Dastu from this blue line, it's really, really good. Moser's been a whisperer defensively, right? Let's even just say that this one is going to be a saw-off. Let's say Hedman doesn't come back in and, they equal each other out with these core pieces on the blue line, but you're then left with the goaltending. And that, like, there is no... Dobish and Fowler have been good. They have been. We've actually seen Vasi have not good playoffs. But this has been a Vezina caliber year from Vasi. Vezina caliber. So then you're asking the rest of the rosters, which we haven't named, if Montreal can win that battle. guys like Josh Anderson, Phil Deneau, who's playing on a fourth line. I like that a lot. Gallagher, who might not even be in the lineup. These types of guys, can they win the battles against the Corey Perry, Ryan McDonough, that type of battle? I don't.
Yes.
I like
Yes.
those veteran names
Yes.
on the Montreal side, but Yanni Gourde, Nick Paul, like they have the guys are there to match for Tampa, and then you're just always left with the goaltending. You are always left with the goaltending. I have Tampa in 7, but my take is honestly whoever wins this series is my East representative in the final.
Yeah.
I do think it's Tampa though in 7.
Wow. Whoever wins this series is going to the final. Cristian Ceniti just said.
Yep. That is how I feel.
Why?
That's how I feel about these teams. The thing we talked about this last episode, Justin, about the goal, like with the goaltending. This is the specific thing. We talked about how it's Vasi and everyone else. So if Montreal can find a way past Vasi, the goaltending becomes way less of an argument in the rest of the rounds. Like Swayman is there, but I don't have Swayman in the vaunted tier of Vasilevsky, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's
It's Vasi and then everyone else in the East.
Yeah,
it's Vasi and then everyone else. Thing. Wow. So you're telling me all you have to do is get by Tampa Bay and then you're in the Stanley Cup final?
Yeah, I mean, like,
that's
look at who you're playing. Say you're playing Buffalo. You're playing Buffalo.
And I think that's not a cupcake. I think that's not a cupcake.
None of these are cupcakes. None of these are cupcakes. Obviously not.
Sure.
That other side of the bracket, like I really don't. The Carolina Convo, like, have they done anything to change our mind from the conference final standpoint? No. So, like, we're already giving them the conference final in a sense, right? Like the Sens, whatever. Whoever they're meeting there, that feels like it's gonna. No, it doesn't scare me for either team.
Okay, well, I personally like the depth of the Montreal Canadiens compared to the depth of the Tampa Bay Lightning. If you take the Tampa Bay Lightning's fourth line and you compare it to the Montreal Canadiens' fourth line of Jake Evans, Philip Deneau, and throw Josh Anderson down there or Brendan Gallagher, whoever you want to throw down there, I'd much rather take that fourth line over. I forget who's even on that fourth line for Tampa Bay at the very second in my brain. But I know that it's not anywhere near to the level that it, and the one big player that I think that, I don't think you mentioned there, he's an ex-Leaf, is Pontus Holmberg. Not having Pontus Holmberg is actually big for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah,
he is one of the best defensive forwards in the NHL. Like, he really is.
Yeah, he's become a coach's pet.
Exactly. And I think that that's not being talked about enough, thanks to a door that was open in Buffalo. Thank you very much. But anyway, I think that the depth of the Montreal Canadiens is stronger. I think you talked about the main four for each team. I personally lean Montreal in that. I think Nick Suzuki, like, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but this is still on topic, but do you think Nick Suzuki should be on a Hart ballot this season? Like in the top 10?
He's maybe tail end in the same sense we talked about with like the Norris race where it goes 10 deep. But the problem with the Hart is we've had the conversation. We know the tier is
no, but I know. But would you consider
him?
Would you consider him on that ballot? Like, would you say he's been one of the best top 10 players in the league this season?
Top 10, yeah. Because I think you're then extending to like him, like Scheifele's had an 103-point season, very, very quietly,
for sure.
Yeah, I would say this forwards though, because how many of those Norris contenders is he beating out to? Right, top 10 forward this year, definitely.
So I would take him over Braden Point. Obviously, I would take him over Jake Gensel. I would take him over Brandon Hagel. And so I think like Cole Caulfield, I would take over, and I think Ivan Demidov and Yaroslav Slavkovsky. I think, honestly, just going through the teams and looking at it, I think Yaroslav Slavkovsky has the chance to become like a star. He's already a star in Montreal, but he has the chance to become an NHL star in the sense of like league wide, can be viewed as someone that is bigger and better than what he already is. He took a step this year in the regular season. He had 70 points. He had 30 goals this season. Showed that. But like his body, like he's getting used to it now, and he's starting to become that forceful power forward that scores a bunch of goals that everyone thought he would be when he was first drafted. And I think he has a chance to be a massive X factor in this series and play a big role. So I look at the core of the Montreal Canadiens and the core of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I just like them a little bit better, even though it's hard to say because like it's Jake Gensel, right? It's Braden Point, who can turn it up at any point. It's Brandon Hagel, who's been a dog on a bone for the last 2.5 years, it feels like. But yeah. And then I look at the back end, and yeah, Noah Dobson's injury is really concerning for sure. But like you said, Victor Hedman's not on their side. He's only played like 15 or 20 games this year, I'm pretty sure. He hasn't been there all season long, and it's not the same. And then for defense, like who would you rather have, Lane Hudson or Darren Radish?
Yeah, no, I give the edge to best defenseman in the series is Lane Hudson. Yeah. The thing with Tampa has been like a team collective, right? That's what it's been too.
For sure.
But no, I don't lean Montreal's way with the core. I think this is what it entirely hinges on probably is Braden Point's health. I think a healthy Braden Point, I'm taking that Tampa core 10 times out of 10. Unhealthy Braden Point, which is what we might be dealing with.
I kind of agree with you, but I kind of disagree with you in the sense of I think this series, like every other series, it's the basic cop-out answer. But I think that it's a little bit more detailed in this series with goaltending. I think it's Jakub Dobeš. If Jakub Dobeš can play at the level that he did down the stretch of the regular season, then we're talking about a different Montreal Canadiens team. If we're talking about Jakub Dobeš and the ups and downs he had during the regular season, and we get that in the playoffs in a 7-game series, we're talking about a totally different series, right? I think if he can maintain that level, he doesn't have to be Vasilevsky. Like, I don't think he has to be Vasilevsky or, go into this series thinking I have to be better than him. If you can play just as well as him or just a little bit less than him and make a couple saves when you need to make saves, that's all it's going to come down to, I feel like at the end of the day, as long as Jakub Dobeš doesn't have these massive swings of up and down where it looks like he can't even play goalie for like a couple of games in a row. And I'm not saying he hasn't been terrific this season because he's been really good as a rookie, but there's been a couple lapses where in his game, it just looks like the confidence is gone and like he's got to get out of the net. You know what I mean? So I think like if it's going to come down to Jakub Dobeš, in my opinion, if Jakub Dobeš is going to play the way Jakub Dobeš played down the stretch of the regular season, the Montreal Canadiens win this in 7, if not less. But I think it's going to go 7 games. And I do think it's going to be the most entertaining series. The last point I will make about this before we wrap up this podcast, because it's already an hour and 20 minutes long, and we know we're taking up your time, so we want to wrap this up. The Tampa Bay Lightning have been trying to enforce against a couple teams I think that they look at as teams that are coming up and they were going to have to face. So number 1 is Buffalo. They tried it against Buffalo earlier this year. Buffalo answered. They tried it against Montreal multiple times in the regular season, and every single time Montreal answered the bell. Not once did Tampa Bay, I feel like, assert a dominance over these teams and really take advantage of them, like we've seen in the past, like a Florida did. And I think that is going to be a big difference in this series. Like, if they want to go down that road, if Tampa Bay wants to go down that road, sure, Montreal's going to answer the bell. Like, it's not like last year where you saw Tom Wilson manhandle some Montreal Canadiens and just overtake the series with one massive hit. I think the Montreal Canadiens have learned to be tougher as a group, as a team, and some individuals like Josh Anderson have learned even more so than already before, hey, like, no matter what it is, we're not taking this. Like, it's not happening. And I think the Montreal Canadiens are built really good to match that. Do you guys feel that way with Tampa Bay, what they were trying to do down the regular stretch of the regular season to especially Buffalo and Montreal?
I just wonder if it's more organic. Like, I think that just kind of happens where like Hagels and like just even everybody everybody on Tampa Bay is just sort of bought into this like all for one, one for all. You touch one of our guys, we're going to dominate. So I wonder if it's more just like I don't know if it's less targeted at certain teams, and it's just more like the way that the team plays and sort of the culture that has been established. But yeah, I will agree that I think last year you saw the Canadians get sort of manhandled, and I don't know if you'd find the same thing this year. And I just wonder if that's again Martin St. Louis kind of being at that helm and sort of saying like we're going to be facing some tough competition. I think one of his quotes yesterday was like, "This is why we play the games. We're going to play the games, and we're just going to see how they play out." Like he's not listening to any of the noise. I think the Canadians just have more confidence in themselves this year. Like I don't know how much confidence they had last year going against a Capitals team that surprised everybody, but I think this year they're going to be like, "Yo, we can do some damage, and therefore, if you touch one of our guys, like we're going to come right back after you." So I think that's what the big difference is. The confidence is going to allow them to fight back a little bit more.
One thing that you just mentioned, I think, is really crucial is the fact like last year, yeah, they got manhandled and they probably like I think they were playing with house money. They're not going to tell you they were playing with house money, but like
Yeah.
they weren't expected to be there. You know what I mean? Like they expected out of themselves to be there, but in terms of the outside, they weren't expected to be there. And it was just about getting that experience, just like, when the Toronto Maple Leafs did it in their first season or first postseason in the Austin Matthews era against, I think it was Washington, if I remember correctly. And they took Washington to 6 games, I think that
6,
series.
yeah.
And I think that was the whole thing of last year's thing with the Montreal Canadiens. This year, they expect to be there. They expected to be there, and I think people expected them to be there a little bit more. And I think that they understand a little bit better, and they have a better understanding. The one also wrinkle I think that is also kind of interesting, and they've mentioned this in their media avails, is Marty St. Louis going back to Tampa Bay to take on the Tampa Bay Lightning in the playoffs.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good individual storylines. Like,
yeah.
I've just been staring at Corey Perry's name for like the past 5 minutes, right? Like just the mythos of him going to the finals. Just touching on two of the things that we talked about there, the Dobish goaltending aspect and just the toughness and the physical play. With Dobish, I was just looking back because I remember the whole thing with Dobish is he came out of nowhere last season down the stretch. And then I was just reminding myself, like, what happened in the playoffs? Like, was he in the net for all of those games against Washington? It was split between Montembeault and Dobish, and Montembeault was actually the guy who ended up playing better. He had a 908 in 3 games, whereas Dobish ended up with an 881. So he kind of lost that shine by playoff time. So yeah, you need him to not be the case this time around. You do have another contingency plan in a Fowler, so there's that as well. And then on the toughness stuff, I feel like that ends up mattering more deep in the series, especially against like the veteran teams. Like you think of Boston pre this retool, Tampa this whole time. I feel like they pick their spots. Some fights are just for the sake of fighting, and then I think other fights are just hits, whatever. They mean more. I think back to when we played Tampa. Once again, don't remember if this is the first time or the second time when Kyle Clifford ended up getting ejected from game 1, right? Like, it doesn't change. I don't think game 1 is where it actually sets the tone for the rest of the series. You can't really make, I don't know if you can make that big of an impact. I think where the physicality catches up to you is like game 6 and 7, right? So I don't know how much I look into what Tampa's been doing down the stretch or Montreal, whatever. This is when it matters now, is the mind games and the physical scrums. That starts now, and that'll catch up by the end of the series.
For sure.
I think by the end of the series, this will be the most beaten up team. Or sorry, I worded that wrong. By the end of the series, it doesn't matter who's coming out of this. It's going to be the two teams that are going to be most beaten up against each other, I feel like.
Yeah, it's possible. Definitely possible.
I know it's the playoffs, and a lot of people go through a lot of things in the playoffs, and teams are ratcheted up.
Bruins could give them a run for the money. Just looking at this series here, that one might also.
I also think Stars Wild could give them a run for their money because they've been going at it
in their last podium.
Have you seen their last couple games, in the last month, since they've known they're playing each other? like they are going at each other in terms of like just going for scrums because they're trying to, I guess, send a message for the playoffs, which makes sense. But anyway, exciting stuff in the NHL all around, and it's going to be an absolutely electric first round of the NHL playoffs. To be honest, other than Colorado, which a lot of people have winning, the Eastern Conference is so wide open, in my opinion. Like, there isn't a team that I say, like, you can't win. Except, actually, I shouldn't say that. There's one team, Philadelphia. I say they can't win. But outside of that, the 7 other teams, I think you look at them and you can say, yeah, I could see them going on a run and reaching the Cup final. Like, it's not unrealistic. I think that, honestly, there's so many good teams in this league right now, and the parity is so good that we could see them go on a deep run. But it's going to be electric either way. I think that overall, I'm excited for, obviously, the Montreal Canadiens versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. But I will leave you with this. Give me one player that will define the Stanley Cup playoffs for you. And Cristian, I will go to you first.
Yeah.
Jeez. Like, dude.
Just one player. It's one player.
Okay. Yeah, give me Crosby. Give me Crosby.
Okay.
Who the hell is rooting against Crosby? There's, like we talked about, there's people rooting against McDavid. There's people rooting against every player. I don't think anybody's rooting against any Crosby unless you're from Philly. Like, that's about it.
That's fair. Alex, who's your one player that's going to define the 2026 Stanley Cup playoffs?
I think it's Nate. I think he's probably already pissed off that he hasn't been the unanimous favorite for Hart, despite the fact that it is worth discussing. And I think he's going to go, man, like, it's my time. Like, he probably looks at the West and he thinks there's zero chance we're not making the finals. And I think he goes nuclear. So I think Nathan McKinnon defines it. I think he has a pretty high opportunity here to win the Conn Smythe. Give me Nate Dogg.
He's got a lot to be pissed off about. He's got the Olympics. He's got to rewrite that.
True.
He's got the last year's playoffs where he was like really pissed off after they lost in the first round. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He obviously played like that, and the team played like that this season. And they played a lot better than what they did last year, obviously. Mm-hmm. But just in general, like he is one guy that he's got a chip on his shoulder.
That's it.
And you guys are going to be shocked by this.
It's Mitch Marner.
Cole Caulfield. Come on.
No.
Okay.
No.
Mitch Marner.
I'm going to say. Okay,
Who do you got?
I have 2 picks, but I'm going to go with my gut and take the one.
Yeah.
McDavid's going to go on a run.
That's fair.
Whoa. Who saw that one?
But I don't mean like a normal run. I mean he's going to break the record.
He already has, hasn't he? He already kind of has.
He didn't break the single season or single playoff run point record.
Yeah. No. 50, I think, for Gretz?
47.
Like
47.
47.
Was it assists that he broke?
He broke the assist record.
Yeah.
In 2024. Yeah. He had 42 points that season. And I think it was 24 games.
I feel like...
Listen, and if it's not him, my other pick is, and this is why I can't decide, because like this is... I feel like Colorado's going to win, and I feel like they are... Like Nate Dogg's probably the guy that's going to be the guy to win Conn Smythe. But if it isn't, I feel like the one guy that is going to stop them is Jake Ottinger. I feel like that... He has a chance to kind of rewrite what people think about him in the playoffs as being a really good regular season goaltender and then falling apart in the playoffs. I feel like he has a chance to control that and be the best goaltender in these playoffs. But that's my opinion. Anyway, We hope you enjoyed episode 57 of the Second Look Sports Podcast. It was fun talking about the NHL playoffs. I know we didn't really talk about the NBA playoffs. The Toronto Raptors are taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round. We will be watching that, and we will be commenting on that next week. So be sure to tune in for that. Other than that, though, enjoy all the time on the couch watching all these games. And if you aren't a fan of sports and you listen to this, I'm sorry that you just put yourself through this. But sports are the best thing in the world, and they will simply bring the best of you. So have a great day, enjoy it, and we'll talk to you later. Peace.